What's up, everybody? I am Jesse, or GameOverJesse, as all of you may know me. Here with us on the Zelda Mailbag for the Hylian Games Cast is Kayla and Daniel, as always. But we have a very special guest here to answer all of your questions that you've sent in. Sean, who everyone may know as Revalis, Tiba, and the Great Deku Tree. Since I've had you on, I keep getting worried that I'll mix that up and say Mifa or some crazy name.
The Deku Tree and then Revali, because apparently you got hired for Deku Tree first.
Yeah. Plus he's older, man. Elder.
Yeah, Kayla, come on.
No, I guess technically the Deku Tree is older, but Revali did die before he did, so spoilers.
Moment of silence.
Yeah, so we have our Zelda Mailbag, which we have a lot of questions here, like we do on most of our podcasts, and we can't get through absolutely all of them, or else we'd be here for a few hours, but we're going to try to get through as many as possible. But if you would like...
I was going to lightning round it. I was going to see if I could get through as many as possible.
All right, let's do it.
Already.
All right, so here we go. So, Zeno12 says $2. I'm sorry, that's not a question. Do you think top-down Zelda will come in 2019? Okay, I'm not very interested in Zelda with her top-down. Please don't ask questions like that. But if they did want to do a vertically inclined Legend of Zelda in the future, I don't know. Not before Animal Crossing, though. We need a new Animal Crossing.
Yes, man.
When we were at E3, that was the one thing that we all got sad about, was no new Animal Crossing.
Honestly, if they just make a new Animal Crossing, which is already top-down, and they give me the option to dress as Link, I'll consider that a new Zelda game.
All right.
Knucklehead Tori, GameOverJesse, how do you get into character, and what inspirations, if any, come to mind when doing each voice? That's a good question. For the longest time, I would get into character by just trying to think of what type of voice would come into mind for them. Like, first I think of what would they sound like, what is the pitch or the range of their voice. Then I usually look at what their personality is. It's a hard question to answer, and I actually think it speaks to what I could come into mind to improve on as an actor. Obviously, you already saw how I pulled inspiration from Sheen and Fatigue to play Teba and Monotaro. But if it's a character... So this is something I learned from when I did workshops with Crispin Freeman. The more often we do auditions and the more projects that we voice in, the more that you start to recognize consistencies in themes among characters. Like, you'll look at the audition sites for a character and go, this is the lecherous pervert. This is the guy the solemn guy with a dark past who's trying to move past it. Oh, this is the family guy who's very concerned for his siblings and wants to make sure they're protected. And so the more and more you see these role types, the easier it becomes to find a foundation for what their attitude, their vocal placement will be like. And then it just becomes a matter of finding the nuance. Like, how do they fit into this world? Do they have a fantasy accent? Do they have, are they a leader type? What's their job position? Would that affect how they speak? So it's really on just a case-by-case basis of drawing from what I do know and then seeing where my mind goes with the information that's new to me. Amanda, I know I'm gonna not give you guys any time for that was a great answer, thank you very much, which I appreciate, but I want to get to all.
You got places to be.
Yeah.
Amanda Van Heel, several of the actors didn't know that the game they were just casting was a Zelda game until the first recording session. How typical is it for voice actors to not find out what game they're doing until they begin recording? So in general, especially for union stuff, it's very common not to know what game you're recording for until after you've been cast, because they have you sign the NDA, and once you sign the NDA, that's basically the promise that you're not going to talk about it, so then they can go ahead and give you the information. But this was part of why SAG-AFTRA ended up having the strike, was because there were cases where even after the actors were cast and had already signed the NDA, the company still wouldn't give them real information about what the game was because they were just scared about that information being leaked, even though you already signed a contractually binding document. And this could cause issues because, for example, the person who played one of the lead roles of Fallout 4 had no idea that he was voicing for Fallout 4 until the game came out and people realized that he was voicing that character. And it caused issues because had he known, his agency might have been able to negotiate accordingly for such a big budget game in terms of his payment. So there was this battle over like it being relatively unfair for that information to be withheld if you've already signed a document. And especially there's cases where auditions come in that you're not allowed to submit the auditions or get the auditions unless you signed an NDA first. So it is typical for it is somewhat common for stuff to be codenamed, or if it is codenamed, we generally don't know until we've been cast and we find out. But the hope that the union goes for as a standard is that if it is codenamed, then once you sign an NDA document saying you won't talk about the game, that you should be allowed to have that information. So it teeters on both sides. It is common, but it shouldn't be as common as it is. Just X, question for Revali. You voice a lot of different characters in the game. Do you have to warm up for every character you do, or can you just jump right into the voice? So, for example, would you be able to have Revali converse with Tree on the fly? If so, can you please demonstrate? I cannot demonstrate for reasons I stated earlier. I'm sorry. I apologize for any inconvenience. Warm-up is important regardless of what character you're voicing, especially if I'm going to be doing, like, there's a character I voice in a kid's anime called Screecher's Wild, where I voice DJ Screech, and he's a very loud, shouty announcer type. Like, all of his lines are spoken at a projected volume. So I have to make sure that I warm my throat up, do my arpeggios with my tongue, make sure I'm completely warmed up, and stay hydrated the whole time. Otherwise, I'll wear my throat up very fast. You may have noticed, since my throat isn't completely back to normal, I did kind of squeak a little bit when I was doing fatigue. It can depend on the status of my throat quality at the time. So I definitely can't just jump right into the voice, and we have to be careful, take breaks during sessions when we need to. But the more you perform that character type, the more you practice that voice, the easier it becomes to fall into it. Case in point, when I did Super Natsuki ReZero, early on when I had to do all that screaming, my voice would wear out really quickly. But I did notice that by like the second half of the season, I was able to do screams more consistently. I didn't crack as often. I could sustain them for longer, and I spent less time recovering because I had actually like trained my vocal muscles, no different than if you went to the gym to work out your pecs or your biceps, or your quads. So it was really cool seeing that growth happen like that. Beast Boy. Plenty of people say they hate Revalis for being such a jerk, although many come some slack after his Champions Ballad scenes, rather just like from the beginning. And I'm wondering if you think people are sort of missing the point of his character. I honestly think he's the funniest champion, and I felt like most of his jerkishness is played for comedy. We're making good pace. I think we'll be done before 9 o'clock. So are you guys? If you guys need to cut in at any point, let me know, because otherwise this is just going to be me rambling and talking.
No,
if you want to answer questions as well, feel free to skip them.
Yeah, or
okay.
if we covered one earlier. So after we get done with you, we have like an hour or two where we're going to continue the podcast with someone else. So we have all the time in the world. You're good.
Okay, well, my goal is to be done by 9. So if at any point you guys want to cut in, or I'm just like going on too long, just let me know.
I could listen for ages.
So I actually made a Tumblr post about Revali as a character, and in it I said that I wished in performing the character, I wished I had known what I learned from the DLC back when I was recording for the main game, because the DLC taught us that Revali is not just feathers and fluff. He is a character who decided that he needed to be good at something before he could go around touting that he was the best. And he didn't say anything about it until he had already achieved what he was going for. He sequestered himself in the mountains, and we see that he didn't want to be seen by others until he was done because of how he reacts when Zelda surprises him when she goes to check on him. So he wasn't just showing off every time he made new progress. He only wanted people to know about his talent once he had mastered it. And so Revali is a character who I feel genuinely should have earned the accolades he was going for. And he didn't propose himself. When he was assigned to be one of the champions to fight against Ganon, he took it super seriously, and he prepared himself to be one of the best, if not the best fighters in the fight against Ganon. So he goes through all of that work, goes through all of that effort to master this ability, And then some guy walks in who's apparently prophesized to be the one to defeat Ganon, and he's automatically assigned as everyone's superior. Like, how would that make you feel? If you put so much work into ascertaining that you had the skills required, and you were told to subjugate yourself to some complete random stranger who supposedly is just going to be able to beat this guy, even though no one's heard of him before, and you have no knowledge of his past history and his skill set. We see it through Teba, who, when Link says, "I want to destroy Vah Meadow," Teba's like, "Yeah, right. Are you kidding me?" Like, he forces Link to prove himself first before he'll actually take him seriously. And I think that's reasonable. I do. I think it was totally reasonable for Revalis to be bitter about that. And although he lingers on wanting to challenge Link to see who truly was better between the two of them, it isn't until the end of the game, when Link has done all of these great things, that Revali begrudgingly accepts the fact that Link may be as good as people say he is. He still doesn't like that fact, but he is willing to accept it. And I think that's really defining of his character, and I think it was really important for people to know. So I hope a lot of people play the DLC, because I think it actually gives credence to Revali's character and his personality.
I gotta say, you really changed my mind, or turned it around on Revali for me, because playing through it, I just looked at him as like the arrogant person. I don't want to say he's exactly like Groose, but in terms of character development, like, they both act like the big macho person that, like, they think they're better than the other person. But then towards the end of the game, you find out that, you know, they start to change a little bit, or you start to see the different side of them. I think Revali and Groose both had that, where in the end they both, you know, ended up working with Link for the better. So
there's an image
as well.
Go ahead.
Sorry. Oh, sorry. Okay. So on that note as well, something I really like all the champion characters, but people tout like, oh, that much they love Mipha and they don't like Revali because Revali's a jerk, whatever. But something that I feel like a lot of people kind of overlook is that the other champions don't really have a character arc, other than being like, "I died, sorry." So, and I love those other characters too. I really do. But Revali did always stand out to me. As much as I like to joke about him being arrogant as well. He did actually stand out to me as being like the only champion that has that arc where he has a mindset at the beginning and he actually grows and learns things and comes to accept Link. I almost feel like at that time in the game, me playing it, I was like, yes, I like felt like I proved something to my big brother, so or sort of. So yeah, it was good. I think it was well done, and a lot of people kind of missed the point, as Beast Boy pointed out. So yes.
All right, so do you find it fun playing so many different characters in Breath of the Wild and other media? I always figured there'd be half the fun of being a voice actor, just kind of being able to be all of these wildly different characters. When I first got into voiceover, it was very selfish. It was, I can be crazy and zany and people will pay me money? Hell yeah. But now that I've gotten deeper into it, being a voiceover artist is the permission and the ability to go on all these adventures and do these things that aren't possible in real life. Like, when I talk about Zank, if I were to go out and tell like a grandfather and his granddaughter that I want them to fight to the death, and that if they don't, I'm going to chop one of them up and force feed it to the other person, chances are I wouldn't be here to have this interview with you guys. But in Fairy Fencer F, I do that, and the director goes, "I love it. Give me more." You know, just like shredding those dollar bills in my direction. And I just think it's fun. And on a more serious note, it's really bittersweet to realize that even after I'm gone, I can still be around to entertain people. Like, as long as the media still exists, as long as there's still a way to play the game, all you have to do is boot up something that I've performed in, and I can be there to help bring that story to life for you. It's kind of my way of making myself immortal. And I don't like to think about that a lot, but it is a major influence in why I'm so excited about what I do. Yeah, heartwarming. I ship Revali and Mipha. What say you? Okay.
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 Okay. I've never thought about that ship before, but all right, cool.
Now he's thinking about it.
I am, for better or for worse. Which character was your favorite to voice, and why was it Revali? Actually, my favorite character voice, I actually voice Paya in the upcoming Pachinko machine of Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, and I am very excited to talk about that. I can't go into too many details, but I hope that I'll be able to talk about it soon. Thank you very much for your interest. Please play. Please support the official release. Knucklehead Tori, what would Revali's reaction be to finding out that all the Rito have to remember him by is the landing they named after him? Mifundru got statues, while Urbosa is considered a legend among her people. Would he be disappointed? I actually don't think it's just the landing. It's very well known. Like, Teba deeply respects Revali, and I believe there's at least a couple points where it's mentioned that Revali is revered among the Rito as the only person to have solved, because I don't know if it's canon that the Rito aren't capable of flapping to go upwards. They can only fly forwards, and they have to use the wind in order to carry themselves up. Is that canon?
As far as my understanding of that moment where he's like, he's sort of boasting about his achievement of the technique Revali's Gale. That was kind of my understanding, was that.
Okay, so assuming
the only one that had mastered that.
Assuming that is the truth, like, that's a huge freaking deal. And so for him to be revered as someone who solved that issue among his people, I do think he got more recognition than a lot of people picked up on. So I don't think it's just the landing. I could be wrong, but I actually do think that he was well respected. So and deservingly so. Again, relating to what we learned from the DLC. Are you anything like from for adaptability? Excuse me. Are you anything like Revali in real life? And if not, was it challenging to take on a character with whom you shared little in common with? Were there any mental exercises that helped you get into the mindset of the champion? Are you anything like Revali in real life? So, and like I said, it kind of switched. So when I first played Revali, it was more of just relying on what I understood about characters who are overconfident, who are cocky. And again, it played into why I wished I had learned what I had from the DLC, because that it would majorly helped my understanding of Revali as a character. For the main portion of the game, I did rely a lot on my director, Jamie, to help guide me to where I needed to be for the character. And that was where part of how I learned how voiceover in the studio is very much a team collaboration. It's teamwork. It's a team effort. Everyone wants each other to succeed. I would like to think I'm not like Revali in real life in terms of his personality. I've seen a lot of cases where people online say, yeah, Chiplock is nothing like his character. Revali is an arrogant jerk, and Chiplock is actually a really nice, down-to-earth guy. He donates to all these charity streams. He did all these fan requests. And that is the kind of person I want to be. I try to be the best that I can in all of my interactions, and I want people to think of me as someone who's very approachable and very trustworthy, rather than someone who embodies their characters. Also because that just helps sell me as an actor. Like, oh my god, he can play these character types even though he's nothing like this in real life. That kind of helps me market myself as being versatile in my skill set. So yeah, I outside of being a person who does feel like hard work should be rewarded, even though I know it's not, I'm not entitled to anything and it's not a guarantee. I, like Revali, do seek acknowledgement of hard work when I've done it and when I've earned it. But outside of that, no. I think he and I go about trying to showcase our strengths in different ways. He does it in the sense of trying to, I'm trying to think of how to word it. He does it in the sense of requesting recognition. I do it in the sense of trying to prove myself to people. I really do it from an approach of, am I good enough to be accepted by you? And it feeds into a lot of my self-consciousness and my hopes of making it into the industry. And so we definitely go different approaches about it. Hold on, I'm trying to scroll down, but freaking Discord, whenever the message pops up, it interrupts me. Has your opinion of Revali changed since recording the Champions Ballad? How? I think we already answered that question, so my apologies for not going over it again. May the Triforce guide you said, do you like ravioli? I actually like large size beefaroni. I think the sauce tastes better. But I have warmed up to ravioli, especially if I mix it with the beefaroni. It's pretty good. However, my all-time favorite is still Sonic the Hedgehog SpaghettiOs. I'm sorry, but when you gotta go fast and also get gas, Sonic the Hedgehog SpaghettiOs. Chrissy G says, have you played Breath of the Wild yourself?
As mentioned earlier.
How far did you get?
You didn't
Also,
even get through opening the box.
do you have a favorite character on the game? I think Teba is a good bird dad. He has a loving wife. He has kids who appreciate him, and yeah, he's a good bird. I like him. I like him a lot. I really do. And he's also very meaningful to me because Teva was the first case for a game of this magnitude where the voice that I presented to the development team was the voice that was used for the character with no changes whatsoever. I saw his references. I said, I know what he sounds like. They said, show us. I did it. They said, yep. And we recorded him exactly like that. So what you hear from Teva is 100% my own creation, and I'm very, very proud of that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to like go back after all because I keep forgetting to check the chat while I'm going through these questions. But I hope people are enjoying themselves. If you're not, please show your anger in dollar amounts to my PayPal. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being I'm not angry at all, 10 being I am furious. Send that amount to my PayPal, and I'll make sure to use it as a learning experience for
everybody in the chat is loving it. Gus says best answer ever. Everyone else is saying Burb Dad making jokes and stuff. So you're doing great.
Bird Dad making birds and stuff. Bird up. Who else but Bird Dad? All right, I need to move on before I get caught up. The Zelda Collector says that the Great Deku Tree is the forest, and the Koroks are children of the forest that makes the Deku Tree their father. So how does he feel about his children basically giving Link piles of poop? Well, I look at it this way. Deku Tree needed someone to defeat Ganon, and Link went and slept for 100 years. So this is really the Deku Tree saying, if I have to deal with your crap, you have to deal with mine.
Oh, I love it.
Dang, guys.
I can hear chat collectively going, oh! Which that's what happened to Revalis when he had to fight Windblight Ganon. He went, ah!
Ooh.
Too soon.
Ooh, too soon.
What was your typical routine for getting your voice into character? Did you see actually Revalis shows up in Smash when Falco goes up to that thing of fried chicken? So I thought that was really interesting.
Oh no! I always say that. I mean, Revali is pretty much the Falco of Zelda, so they can just reskin them. It's Revali's and Smash.
I like chat is just now getting to my bird dead thing, and they're all freaking out right now. Like I just think that's freaking hilarious.
No, so speaking of, like you mentioned Smash Brothers, that's one big hope that I have is that they include the 4 champions into Smash Brothers.
Not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. No.
Right.
And I was so sure of that I made a promise on my Twitter. I made a guarantee. I said, if Revali shows up in any format in Smash, any format, I will give out like 10 or 20 copies of the game to SoCal locals who are active in the scene. And I also said, if he shows up as a playable character, I will raffle off a Nintendo Switch as well. And I'm so sure about that because of 2 reasons. One, all the characters that have shown up in Smash on the roster have either been very good representatives of their franchises, like Snake, like Sonic the Hedgehog, like Cloud, or they have been completely off-the-wall choices, like Wii Fit Trainer, just stuff that nobody thought of, or in a sense, Mr. Game & Watch a little bit. But Revali is neither of those. We already have Link and Zelda and Ganondorf and Toon Link and Young Link, so we've already got all these representatives from the franchise, and he's well known enough, and the franchise is well known enough that it wouldn't really be a surprise if they included him. And the other reason why he wouldn't show up as an assist trophy is because then you have to argue why Revali of all people would show up as an assist trophy and none of the other champions would, or you have to include all 4 champions as assist trophies, which just isn't going to happen. Now, on the other hand, on an unrelated character note number 1, Knuckles is now Sonic's assist trophy. Note number 2, Shadow used to be Sonic's assist trophy, and now he's not. And number 3, the development team said, we really like making Echo Fighters because they're simple and they're fun. So take what you will from that.
A chance.
It does.
Cross your fingers, guys.
Perhaps he will finally be able to find that darn fourth Chaos Emerald. What is your typical routine from Ilya Rose? Oh, I'm not answering this question. No, from Ilya Rose. This is the running joke now. What was your typical routine for getting your voice into character, whether it's Revalis, the Deku Tree, etc.? Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming on. So I did discuss already about how I warm up for characters, but it was interesting for each of the characters. Revali, like I said, I was very physical. I definitely physicalized myself, posed like Revali would pose in order to get into his mindset. For Teba, it was just modifying the voice. I hunched myself down, but it was more focused on taking Sheen's voice and taking the anger and making it into bitterness, because Teba was very much about the voice for me. Deku Tree was an interesting case because the only way that I could consistently hit his tone of voice is if I completely relaxed myself. So I had to loosen my muscles, deep breaths in between every line, and I had to just exhale and go deep. And I was right up against the microphone the entire time, speaking this way. So that was the only way that I could hit that voice and do it consistently. I'm not looking at the chat right now, but I'm pretty sure David's like, he's doing it again. The demon. Gus speaks. How had you feel the embrace of fans want to do look more like voicing Revali? I am very, very, very glad that it was such a positive reception to Revali. I just didn't want people to critique the game and feel like it was just another iteration of CDI, and it seems like the general mass response is that it's a very beloved game, and that the voice cast on some level is memorable. And if we just speak about Revali specifically, it does seem like a lot of people really like my performance as him, and that's all I really could have hoped for. So I'm very grateful for that. Meridia7, do you have the same smarmy file? How are we doing on time? Oh, God. Okay. Do you have the same smarmy smile on your face when you voice arrogant characters? Yes, I very much physicalize it. You know, I do the pose, I do the snark. I don't have a question, but I'm just proud of him every day for being able to follow his dreams and bring us all such happiness. Thank you. Can you high five him for the fan base? Thanks, guys. If Revali were to be in Smash Bros. Ultimate as a playable character, which he won't, what would his main victory quotes be, and what would his other quotes be for winning a match against Link, Zelda, Sheik, Ganondorf, Young Link, and Toon Link? Probably his victory quotes would be, I'm trying not Meta Knights come back when you can put up a fight, but just another example of why I'm the best, would be one of his victory quotes. Another one would be, it'll be more than 100 years before you can best me. Yeah, something like that. Or just something simple like 100 years, try 200. Just some reference to Breath of the Wild. Do you recommend Revali?
It was just asinine.
Yes, yes, that was simply asinine. Do you recommend Revali enjoys the fact that he can endlessly insult Link without rebuttals from him as Link doesn't speak, or do you think he finds it frustrating? If you read his diary, it says that he's frustrated that Link doesn't speak. Like, he wants to see the response from someone who's been bested in every way, but he doesn't get to see it, and that kind of annoys him. And I think maybe Link knows it. How did you get to play as Revalis, Deku Tree, and Teba? Flo Pollax, we already answered that. Sorry about that. Avian Animator, what has always been Sean's dream role? I want to be in a dungeon crawler as the main story character or a party member. My dream, I would love to get auditions for Etrian Odyssey Cross X. I really, really want to be a part of that franchise before it disappears and they just stop making games for it. But failing that, I would really just like to be a party member in a story mode, or when you can create a character, if I'm one of the male voice options, so that you can create someone like me who's fighting alongside you and doing all these skills and exploring the dungeons with you. Dungeon crawlers are my life. I write panels on them. They are the genre I play most often and know the most about. I was a co-writer on the most comprehensive mechanics guide for the first Demon Gaze game. Please let me be in a dungeon crawler someday. Okay, we've got Two more. We've got two more. If
All
Revali, if Revali was in Smash, would you rather him have his own moveset or be a clone of Falco? No. I definitely think either his second jump or probably his recovery would be Revali's Gale. And as a result, he would have a very, very high vertical recovery, unlike Falco, who has a more horizontal lateral recovery. No, wait. No, he's very vertical. So Revali would be a very vertical recovery person. Thinking about his moves, I don't know if I can think about them on short notice. I just know that I wouldn't want him to be a clone of Falco too. He would definitely have an elegance to his moves. He would be very showy in his movements. In general, what methods do you use when a role scene requires you to get very emotional? Again, I'm very method actor. I want the emotion to be real. In particular, crying. Crying either sounds authentic or it sounds fake as heck. So when I was crying as Subaru Natsuki in the series, I actually put myself in a position where I was crying tears. And the reason why that's so difficult is crying is an excess of emotion, an excess of happiness, of anger, of sadness. And the body cries to get out the excess of emotion and bring itself back to normal. So when you have to constantly keep yourself in that status of excess emotion, it drains you. When I went home from the session where I had to cry Subaru Natsuki, I had to put myself to bed because I was so devoid of energy that I could not keep my eyelids open. I was just completely drained. When I had as Range Schwarzer in Trails of Cold Steel 2, when he had to have a very heartfelt scene when he reunited with Alisa, I knew that I had to be very heartwarming, genuine, authentic, caring. So I took the bottle of water that I had been drinking during the session, and I cradled it to my chest, and I pretended it was my wife, and I stroked her head as I spoke the line. I was cooing to this half-empty bottle of water, telling it that everything was fine now, everything would be okay. Yeah. And then when I had to cuss out a character as Santa from 999, the character I was cussing out actually happened to be my vocal director. She voiced the character as well. So I looked at her and flipped her off while I recorded the line, and she said it was great, and we had a great time.
Wow, amazing! I can't believe you got through all of those.
Boom, 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 lightning round. Just, I love
Dang
it.
ring, guys.
Oh, that was fantastic. I think we just do a round of applause for that.
Yeah,
All right, so thank you for joining once again. I think I've probably said that about 1,000 times, but it's really great to have you and everybody else that's coming on. So for everyone who wants to follow you on Twitter, or if you have a Facebook fan page and all of that stuff, a YouTube channel, Instagram, where can people find you? What can they find you on?
If you want my real, like, behind the scenes reflections on life, like really just me as a person learning about myself and talking about the hardships that I go through, you'll want to follow me on Facebook, Sean Chiplock. I say follow, not friend, because I regularly cull through my list of people who I don't actually know in real life. So I do recommend you follow. You'll still see my posts. You know, I do everything public. I don't do things for just friends, so you'll see everything. If you want my role announcements, like the moment I'm allowed to talk about them, or my giveaways related to the announcements, or just my running trains of thought, you want to follow my Twitter at Sonic Mega. And I say raffles because right now I have a raffle going until the end of Sunday where I am giving away a limited edition copy of Octopath Traveler since I voiced the game. And it's open worldwide. As long as you follow the rules of the raffle, you could win the copy of the game. I will mail it to you. I'll sign it if you want.
I'm signing up for this raffle.
and I do this regularly. It's my way of giving back to the fan community because it's companies would not put voiceover in games if they didn't think it was necessary in order to sell it to an audience. So the audience is the reason why my career even exists. So I try to find ways to give back to you guys. Like if I'm going to get a paycheck because you guys make voiceover possible, I'm going to spend some of that paycheck on rewarding the community. So anytime that a game or show that I voice in gets released, that I voice like a named role, I try to find products to give out via raffles. So Twitter, that is where all the raffles happen. That's where you want to stay tuned. And then if you just want to see me crap post and make comic dubs and post, voice clips or voice requests that I do, or just share funny stuff, then go to my Tumblr at Sonic Mega. I'm not as active on there, but pretty much whenever I make a new comic dub, Tumblr is where it goes, and then it gets shared to Twitter. So, yeah.
All right. With that, thank you everybody for watching the Mailbag, the podcast. Please go check out the others, and thank you once again, Sean, for coming on. Maybe we can have you on sometime in the future.
Yeah, thank you so much for making time for me. I'm really
Thank
glad that I
you.
could come on.
Have fun with dinner.
Yeah, have fun at
I will.
dinner. See ya.
Yeah, thank you so much. Take care, guys.
All right, bye.
All right, see you, Sean.
All right. So, everybody that's watching, we are going to continue a very quick podcast with Ilya. So,
I just feel really. You have that feeling right now?
what?
Just like talking to Sean.
Like,
Yeah.
excited?
Like,
Absolutely.
when it was my turn to ask him a question, I was like, I've been so lost in just listening to you
Yeah.
talk. I have no idea.
Daniel and I get lost in when we're talking to cute boys as well.
Mhm.
Oh,
Always.
Guys, there's something behind me.
there's something behind me too.
There's something terrible behind me.
Oh my gosh, you can hardly see it.
It's watching me right
What is it?
Oh my!
What's
it's
behind-
the Fallout mask.
Oh yeah, nice.
Oh,
Wow.
It's dark in here, so I had to put the lamp on. I've had that on my lamp for
All right,
days.
Ilya,
Who's that?
if you're watching,
Oh, hello,
Oh.
Oh, I
Ilya.
didn't read the other thing.
Welcome to
nice.
the podcast.
Welcome.
Hey, I actually totally forgot that I said I'd come on at the end.
Hey everyone, it's me again, Ilya Rose. I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching this video. And you know what? If you're a fan of videos like this, you should totally subscribe and give this video a like and comment below to let us know what type of videos you would like to see us create in the future. And if you would really like to support all of us here at the GameOverJesse channel, please consider purchasing a GameOverJesse t-shirt or becoming a Patreon at patreon.com/GameOverJesse, where you can receive many rewards, such as getting shoutouts, having any topic or theory that you select discussed on the podcast or made into its own video, having your question answered, joining on as a guest on the podcast, and playing with us during our Twitch live streams at twitch.tv/GameOverJesse, and much more.